Welcome to the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast. Over 90% of today's home buyers start their buyer journey online. Here we talk with not only industry experts, but also your fellow home builder marketers to learn how you can succeed in our incredibly competitive digital world. And now, here are your hosts, Greg Bray and Kevin Weitzel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm Greg Bray with Blue Tangerine.
And I'm Kevin Weitzel with Zonda and Livable.
And we are excited today to have joining us Jim Jacobi. Jim is the president at Parkland Communities and Parkland Residential. Welcome, Jim. Thanks for being with us today.
It is a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you, Greg and Kevin, for having me. I really appreciate it, and happy to be with you.
Well, Jim, let's start off and just help people get to know you a little bit. Give us kind of that quick background and overview of what you've been doing.
Sure. So I own Parkland Communities, which is our build for sale side of our company, and our build for rent side of the company is called Parkland Residential. We do for sale and for rent communities all around Georgia. We really stick to just Georgia only. Very active in the space and have really been kind of pioneering a build to rent around Atlanta in general. Focused a lot on, I would say, infill initially, where we do a lot of infill projects, and now we're starting to branch out into other areas. Tertiary markets are all around Georgia.
That sounds awesome. But Jim, before we dive into that, because we've got a boatload of questions for you, we need to know something. Our listeners need to know something personal about you that has nothing to do with work or the home building industry.
Something personal about me. I really enjoy fishing in my spare time. So whenever I can, I have 4 kids. We always enjoy going fishing and catching fish. So that's probably one of the personal things about me.
Fly, bass boat, off a skid, off of the shore, everything.
Anything that bites, I'm game. So that's it.
Now, Kevin, did you notice that he included 2 things? He says, we like going fishing and catching fish.
That's right. In my case, it's just the going fishing. I can't catch anything.
That's right. My kids like going catching. That's totally true.
Well, Jim, tell us a little bit more about how you got into the whole home building industry and some of your path in choosing that as a career.
Sure. Well, my background is in landscape architecture, which you can go into designing backyards or large scale land planning engineering. I went the land planning engineering route. Did that for the first 6 years of my career with various design companies around Atlanta. Then went to work for one of the big builders at the time, helping with land acquisitions and development. Kind of worked my way up. And then in 2005, I decided to go out on my own, do my own thing. Really have not looked back ever since. Started initially doing land and lots and developing. And then we started a home building company in 2007, just as the market was about to do a suicide dive off the high dive. We weathered the storm. It was a blessing in disguise. We had no debt coming into the recession. And so we were bankable. We thrived throughout the recession. I worked 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, but we made it through and built up a nice company. By the time it was over with, we sold that company to Taylor Morrison. That's how they got into Atlanta market. And that was a great transaction. The people at Taylor Morrison are just wonderful. Then it wasn't part of my non-compete. It only pertained to home building. So I started an engineering company and we started doing civil engineering surveying. So the civil engineering surveying, land planning, built that company up and recently sold it to an engineering company called LJA out of Texas. Great group of folks. Just focus solely on home building now, whether we're doing for sale or for rent, mostly for rent. Probably about 65-70% of our total revenue will be generated on for rental side, and their balance will be on the for sale side.
Well, you triggered just a little bit of that PTSD from the 2007 comments there in 2008. Right. Just a great time to start a home building company. You look back now and you say it was a blessing in disguise. At the time, It was just disguised, right?
Best camouflage ever. It was tough. I mean, boy, I rarely slept. We worked so much, but we did it. We figured out how to make lemonade out of lemons, and that's it.
Now, were some of those lemons, were you able to capitalize on some of the losses that other companies were having with possibly like land grab or taking over failed communities or bankrupt communities? Was that part of the gameplay at all?
Oh, yeah. When we started, it wasn't, but that's exactly what it became. I mean, look, I'm not going to help anybody's demise, but if there's an opportunity in the market and it's available, then ethically we'll do it. And that's what we did. We got in a lot of the banks where the public builders couldn't get in with banks and work with banks. We found that niche of getting into banks where we didn't have any baggage and no debt. So we did some fee building for the banks. We bought lots from the banks. I'm proud to say we started with one subdivision and we built it up to probably 20 subdivisions, over 2,000 lots by the time we sold out. We were doing really well. So it was perfect timing and it worked well.
And there's nothing sinister about that. Just because Carl's dead doesn't mean you can't drive his car once he's gone.
Exactly. That's right. Totally.
No reason to let it sit there and not burn oil, right?
Yeah. Amen. That's right. So we just put new tires on it and took it out for a drive.
Giddy up.
May Carl rest in peace.
Poor Carl.
Right. Right.
Jim, tell us a little bit more about your decision to get into that build to rent market. I know there's a lot of builders that have thought about it or heard or read about it, and maybe they're trying to decide, is this a good thing to mess with or not? What was kind of your journey there?
My journey was probably a little different than most. In the build for sale side of the business, it's the only business where you're always running out of inventory. And so I was constantly having to replace the next deal. And so I thought, well, I'm going to get into build for rent. I'm going to go build up, 1,500, 2,000 houses and just sit back and collect mailbox money and never have to constantly find new projects. The genesis was, I hate to say it, not trying to have to work so hard, finding the next deal where I can keep the deals I have and maintain them. So over time, I would say that my mindset started changing. Now we're going to a much bigger scale. We started a really small scale. Now we've really grown it to a bigger facility where we have 1,500 lots now, just all build to rent in our pipeline at the moment that we're working on. So we're looking forward to a big year next year.
Now, are you an agent builder? So you're building and then off selling to a rental management company when it's done? Or are you also taking on the carry of the project as well once it's complete?
We're agnostic. If somebody wants to buy it, I'll sell it to them at any point, and everything's for sale every day. Or if it doesn't sell, I'll go put Fannie Debt on it and we'll own it and carry it and operate it. We're fine with both scenarios. We do it all. I'm negotiating a deal right now on a forward takeout, whereas I'm also having one where I'm trying to find Fannie Debt or bridge to permanent, bridge to Fannie. So we do everything in between.
So Jim, when you compare, because you've done both, you've done the traditional build to sell and you're doing the rentals. What's different from kind of that sales and marketing process between those two business models? Is there a lot of overlap, a lot of lessons you can apply both sides, or is it just totally different business that you have to come at from a different place?
I think there's pros and cons. I would say the pros are financial. Engineering is much more complicated on build to rent than it is build for sale. Most banks around town, I can get the A, D, and C loan for a build for sale project fairly easily. Getting a D, and C for a build to rent right now, especially, is very difficult, and interest rates are really high. So that's why I would say one of the biggest cons is on the financing side. One of the pros is build for rent. We put the same floor, the same paint, the same kitchen cabinets, the same countertops. It is rinse, wash, repeat, and it's just built as fast as we can build. We drive costs down. It's easier to manage and maintain. It's a simpler process on the build for rent side. We put lots of upgrades in our homes. We just don't do standard builder grade quality stuff, cheap stuff. We like to do high quality finishes. In the day, it is our reputation on the line. So we want it to look good, want it built right, last the test of time.
What I'm hearing you say, though, is that because you're ready to continue the management of those properties, if there's not an investor or somebody else who wants them, you're much more aware that the renter is going to know your name long term. And so that reputation comes into play. I know there's some builders that are, you know what, I'm just selling, 10 homes, 20 homes, 100 homes to one investment group or private equity group or whatever it might be. And so maybe there's not quite that same worry about reputation the same way. Have you experienced anything like that when you've heard of others that are doing this, or what's been your experience?
I would say the experience is all over the board. I mean, from some investment groups just looking for someone to fee build for them and just trying to find a way to build a better mousetrap. But at the end of the day, we self-develop everything, we self-build everything, and we do our own warranty. We want to make sure it's built right and built good. And most importantly, if we sell a project to a fund, we want it to be a high quality project. We don't want to sell them a lemon. I'm looking forward to the next deal. This one went well, let's buy another one. So that's the philosophy.
So as you look out in the market today, what is it about build to rent that seems like it's just exploded over the last few years? Maybe I just haven't been exposed to it the same way, but it does feel like it's a newer business model, if you will, at least the way it's being done today. What do you think is driving some of that? Is this just a fad? Is this a new attitude toward living space in our society? What do you think is kind of behind some of that?
Obviously, one, the pandemic was a big push, because it stopped the flow of dollars to office, and to some extent, industrial slowed down, and especially around Atlanta, industrial slowed down. So when you have a large scale investors, they don't want to go invest in office. They're still a little skittish in retail. Multifamily is okay. So it really, truly is the prettiest girl at the ball. I hate to use the acronym, but it really is, because it's the safest investment you have that I think will last a test of time. Just looking at trends of home values over the last 10 or 20 years. I think it's here to stay. In my opinion, build to rent's kind of in the first inning and trying to figure it out. It'll become more prevalent and more acceptable with time when done in the right way, ethically, non-predatory manner. I think it serves a big need and fills a void in our communities.
Do you feel like there is a renter that's out there that used to think that a home purchase was their only route that's now becoming more attuned to, well, maybe I can just rent a nice home as opposed to rental being an apartment type of mentality, right? If I want to rent, I'm in an apartment, or if I want a home, I have to buy. Kind of like with cars, you used to buy a used car, a new car, but then leasing kind of came along, and now you can get a new car every few years and trade up, without the same ownership. Is that where home ownership is headed?
I would say it's a lifestyle change because re-rent for me, we advertise it's a maintenance-free lifestyle. You have no home maintenance, no termites. If the dishwasher breaks, you call us. The AC breaks, we come fix it. The yard maintenance is included in our homes. We offer a completely maintenance-free lifestyle. I have one of my friends who qualifies as a boomer. He sold his house at the peak. He got one of the letters from some investment company in the mail, and hey, we'll buy your house at X. And he's sure signed it up, and now he's a renter. And this guy can more than afford to own, but he just chooses to rent. He says, at the end of the day, Jim, I have a maintenance-free lifestyle, and I feel like I'm living for less than if I wanted to go buy a house right now. So it's a win-win for him.
I'm right in the middle there. I want to own, so I'm a townhouse guy for life. I went from a single-family detached home to a townhouse. I'll never go back. I don't have to worry about paint. I don't have to worry about roof. I don't have to worry about foundation. None of that stuff. It's all covered. I get the set it and forget it mentality, if you will.
That's it. I would say that the newer generations are going to be more transit oriented. They don't want to be tied down, and we're probably more willing to move around. And that's what this offers, a flexible, maintenance-free lifestyle.
Well, when you look at today with the interest rates, all of a sudden the cost of purchase is a lot different than it was just a couple of years ago because of that change there. And there's even some places now where rent is starting to become less than a typical mortgage payment. How do you think that is influencing some of those decisions?
I think it's having a big impact. Interest rates are helping build a rent because obviously just cost associated with the down payment, your monthly rate. The current interest rate climate is definitely helping it out. We're seeing a little bit more phone calls and traffic, which is great. At the same time, it's a little harder to get people qualified now. For whatever reason, we're just having a tougher time getting people to qualify. We've put in a little more stringent qualification requirements. We're probably a 50% qualification rate at the moment, which is very new to us. That's relevant within the last 3 or 4 months.
On the rental side?
It's on a rental side.
Wow, okay.
That's right. It's becoming more difficult to get qualified renters. It was self-inflicted because we just raised our standards some and felt like it was needed. So we just want to make sure we have quality folks in our homes.
Well, Jim, you're obviously a guy who's been in this industry for a little while. I mean that with all the respect and the wisdom that comes with experience, right?
The gray hair.
And the gray hair, that's right. Well-earned gray hair. In 2007, you probably got more than you wanted. But where are you kind of seeing building as a whole with the economy and some of those challenges like the interest rate headwinds and some of that? What are you guys preparing for and looking ahead toward, and some of the impacts of what you think the future is going to bring?
One thing we are not seeing is land costs are not coming down. We've not seen that yet. Land development costs are not coming down. We haven't seen that. So land and lot prices, I believe, are going to continue to escalate. Build to rent, at least around Atlanta, build to rent just doesn't work on a really expensive lot. You just can't make your yield on cost work if you're trying to go do a build to rent house on a $125,000, $150,000 lot. Just give that up. Around here, that's just dead on arrival. You're never going to make those metrics work.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that there's not a market out there for $8,000 a month rents?
Not that I've seen.
Oh, okay. Just check.
There might be, but good luck justifying that to your lender. You're going to take that risk all on your own. Tertiary markets are going to become much more attractive, and they're going to become much more attractive to build to rent and build for sale because everybody's trying to chase a cheaper lot. So we've even started looking at tertiary markets ourselves. We're going all over Georgia now building, and we're finding demand exists in those areas at the right price point, whether it's for rent or for sale. So I think tertiary markets have become more normal, I would say. We've always been Atlanta-centric here lately. I recently sold off a couple of projects where I just thought the lots were just too expensive and made me nervous where we're going to be. $140,000 lot just is not my cup of tea, just because development costs have gone up. Now, on the flip side of that coin, I do feel like construction cost, whether it be some supplies and labor, I feel we're on the cusp where that's going to start to get some relief. Hope I'm right, but seems like the multifamily side has slowed down a good bit. Traditional multifamily apartments construction has slowed down a good bit. Home builders aren't putting as many homes on the ground as they once were. So I'm seeing a little softening on the supply side for opportunity for contractors. We've been experiencing a surge in phone calls from vendors, suppliers, trades, all the above, looking for new opportunities. So it feels like things are kind of on the fence. I would say in 2024, we could probably see a little softening on some areas there.
Well, affordability is still a big issue for a lot of people to get into a new home. And it's good to hear that there might be a little bit of room there where people can, maybe drop these things. I don't want somebody else to lose money on the house they bought yesterday, right? That's the trick, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. But builders have got to adjust as well. You can control what you build. So we've done that as well. We came out with a new 2-bedroom house, a single family home that's only 985 square feet. We have our new series called our Portico series, where we have a 3-bedroom house that's 1,275 square feet and a 4-bedroom house that's 1,450 square feet. So we're trying to just save cost where we can save cost. They're still finished out really well, great use of space. But at the end of the day, our cost is probably 30% less than a traditional home that we built.
Yeah, and 1,000 square foot or a 980 square foot 2-bedroom home sounds like the perfect home.
Bingo. The mortgage works. The mortgage price works. The price point works, and everything comes together. We're seeing some success with it and planning several more communities with that new product line.
Let's switch lanes just for a second. I want to know, because you do both the build for sale and build for rent, obviously have some overlap on some of the expenditures of, if you're building the similar product in the build for sale that just hasn't hit the rental side, you develop one product, you can just spin it in one way or the other. What do the Kara Morgans of the world do when she has to market 2 different messages? Because I assume it's a completely different message that you're sending out. How do you filter that internally?
Well, we traditionally stay all, I would say, first-time buyer when we are doing a build for sale. So we're still trying to provide a value in the market. And there are some people who have been renters and they've been renting for that 3 to 5 years or 2 to 5 years, whenever it may be. And whatever the timeline is, they've saved the money and they're ready to go buy. They're ready to pursue the American dream of home ownership. And we hope you buy from us. Not everybody's going to be a perpetual renter, and we don't want everyone to be a perpetual renter either. We want people to buy homes. That's the message. We're just satisfying a need in the market, whether it's a rental need and quality housing, or if you want a permanent home. We're here just to satisfy the need that's a demand, and that's what we're going to do.
And are your digital assets similar? Obviously, you would need quite as much on the rental side, at least that's my assumption. But, digital assets meaning like renderings, because, once you have a built, all you need is photographs or virtual walkthroughs. I assume you have a model on an office, a rental office.
Yes, well, we do decorated model homes in all communities. So we'll have a decorated model homes everywhere. We operate it all one and the same. We do color renderings for all the homes. We have floor plans for all the homes, 3D tours. So if anything, I would say the build to rent, we probably do more of that on the build to rent side to really help sell a vision of what people are going to be living in.
Well, Jim, we appreciate the time you spent with us today. And, we'd like to invite you to give us one last thoughts or words of advice to our listeners before we wrap up.
That's a tough one. I would say in this time, the financial engineering is really important. Be very careful who you pick as your lenders. Your lenders are going to be really important with you. Times could turn for a little bit worse, and hopefully you have a lender that's willing to ride a storm out with you and is not a shark, because there's a lot of sharks in this business. Vet people out really well, and you may pay a little bit more money for a stronger relationship, but at the end of the day, it's better to sleep at night.
Some great advice. That reminds me of the golden rule, right, Kevin? The one with the gold makes the rules. Is that
pretty much
how that works, right? So the lender can change things later on if it's not going well. So
they can. And, I've met some guys where I just thought, there's no way I'm just going to do business with them. I've met great guys who are just wonderful to do business with, and women, both either way. We're just very picky our business partners. So very selective on who we want to do business with.
Well, Jim, if somebody who's listening wants to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Sure. Best way is to send me an email. My email address is jim@parklandco.com, PARKLANDCO.com. Or you're welcome to call me on my cell phone. My cell phone number is 404 456-5562. Look forward to talking to you.
Well, thanks again, Jim. Thanks everybody for listening today to the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm Greg Bray with Blue Tangerine.
And I'm Kevin Weitzel with Zonda and Livable.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about how Blue Tangerine and Zonda Livable can help you generate more qualified home buyer leads, visit bluetangerine.com and livable.com. That's LIVABL.com. If you've enjoyed our show today, please tell a friend, leave us a review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to join us again on the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast.